So when I look at this game between the Titans and the Patriots, this game is dependent on two factors for me. The first one being is which Ryan Tannehill is going to show up for Tennessee. Because if the Ryan Tannehill that played against the Houston Texans shows up, who threw 4 interceptions against the Texans last week, the Titans are probably going to lose this game by 2 touchdowns. So when I look at Ryan Tannehill, he has to be on his A game in this one because I'm going to give you guys the rundown of what he's being presented with New England's defense in this upcoming matchup. So the Patriots currently have the number one scoring defense in the NFL. They're third in yards allowed. They're third in takeaways, and they're top 10 in sacks. Not only that, New England's defense in the last 3 games has only given up a combined 13 points, with the last game that they played against the Falcons, they shut out Atlanta. And when you look at New England's defense, you can make a case at this point that the Patriots arguably have the best defense in the NFL right now. And I imagine the game plan for Ryan Tannehill is ball security and just limiting the amount of mistakes that he'll make against New England's defense. But the issues with Tennessee are kind of palpable going into this matchup against New England because they're dealing with some injury issues. Ryan Tannehill could be without A.J. Brown in this one against New England. He's questionable with a chest injury. And that goes along with they're not going to have Julio Jones in this game, who's on injured reserve for another week or so. Now, if A.J. Brown is in this game for the Titans, it does help their situation a little bit, but I'm still of the mindset that it's going to be a tall task for the Titans here. And I just think that the obstacles that the Titans offense has going up against New England's defense, it just doesn't favor them on paper. Now, the second factor in this game is can the Patriots offense maintain consistency against a stingy and opportunistic Titans defense? So when I look at New England's offense overall, they've looked solid in spurts throughout the season so far, but outside of the Browns game where the Patriots hung up over 40 points against Cleveland, they've gone hot and cold in stretches in most of their games this season. And the game that I kind of want to highlight to focus on that point was the game that they had against the Atlanta Falcons. Granted, they did win that game, but it's a good example of just the hot and cold spurts this offense has had because in the second half against the Falcons, that offense struggled mightily to get any sort of consistency as far as moving the ball up and down the field against Atlanta's defense. Now, Mac Jones has done a very solid job in his rookie season so far, but you could tell there's some inexperience showing in his games, not being able to pick up the right blitzers. He hasn't been able to dump the ball when necessary to avoid taking a sack. Those are some things that I guess he'll work on in the next couple years in his career, but you could definitely tell that there's some inexperience in his game. And when I look at this matchup that he's being presented against the Titans, this is a good test for him. It's not only just a good test for him, it's a good test for the Patriots offense as well. I mean, the Titans are 8-3 for a reason. They're the top of the AFC for a reason as well. The Titans have beaten solid competition this season, like the Rams, the Colts, the Bills, and the Chiefs. When I look at the Titans defense specifically, that Titans defense held Patrick Mahomes and that high-flying Chiefs offense to 3 points. And not only that, they held the Los Angeles Rams, who have a high-powered offense as well, to 16 points at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. And the Titans defense can definitely make life uncomfortable for a rookie quarterback in Mac Jones because if the Titans are able to get some pressure on Mac with their pass rush, they could definitely force some bad throws by Mac Jones and possibly get some turnovers from it. Now, when I dive into the prediction of this game, I'm going with the Patriots on this one. I just think that the Patriots offense is going to be able to exploit some holes in that Tennessee defense. And I think it's going to be because that 1-2 punch that the Patriots have in Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson in the backfield, I think it's going to be a huge factor for New England here because I think New England is going to win in the trenches with their offensive line. And to further that point, I think with the offensive line success that they'll have against Tennessee's defense, I think it's going to give Mac Jones some time to throw in the pocket and be able to complete some good passes throughout the entirety of the game. And I just don't think that the Titans defense is going to have a lot of opportunities to force some turnovers against New England because of the lack of pressure they're going to be able to get on Mac Jones and that Patriots offense. Now, I do believe that Ryan Tannehill is going to have a better game than he did against Houston last week, where he turned the ball over 4 times. But I just believe that the Patriots defense is just too stout in this matchup. And if A.J. Brown doesn't play in this game for Tennessee, it really just compounds the obstacles that the Titans are going to have to be able to overcome in this game. And I just don't see that happening in this one. So as far as the score goes, I've got New England winning this one by 10 points. I got the score at 27-17.